it's just hugely important to me to listen to you and what you, first of all, I want to spend about 10 or 15 minutes just going over this budget and why I have come out, frankly, against lowering what is already the lowest millage rate in the state of Florida for any city that's even approaching our size. But I also want you to understand what my thinking is, and then I really want to spend the rest of the time hearing from you. So when I'm finished with this, we have a microphone set up here. I don't think, I mean, the crowd is not so big that I would say you need to come and stand in line, but just whenever you see there's a space, come on up and continue to talk, and we'll just go until we get to 7:30. Does that sound good? Okay, so I thought I would kick things off tonight with a fun photo of Rex. That is our beloved orange dinosaur at Beach and Peach. Everyone loves dinosaurs, right? But we also don't want to get stuck in the distant past like this guy. We want to continue to move the city forward, and that's what we're trying to do. So I'm here tonight to talk about the budget. I've said many times that the budget is a moral document. It's a value statement. And what you're going to see tonight basically talks to what I believe are our values as a city. Really, values behind this budget are starting with our core function of public safety. Before we go any further, and I'm going to talk about this, but my staff has been so wonderful about following me from one place to another with these. We've got 3 this week. They haven't missed any, and these are folks that literally work all day long for you, and I appreciate them so much. And then they're here again tonight. So if you are part of my staff, please, would you please just stand up just for a second and wave at everybody? Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate them, and I tell you that for 2 reasons. One is because I appreciate them, and the other is we've got people here to answer any question that you may have, if you have any question that I may not be able to answer. So more than half of every tax dollar in our city goes to police, fire, and rescue. As you can see, we allocate the rest to things like infrastructure. That's your street resurfacing, your sidewalks, health, education, and so on. So how do we compare with other Florida cities? Well, as you can see, our public safety spending on a per capita basis is not out of line with that of other major Florida cities. We spend about $1,000 per person per year. However, as a total percentage of the overall budget, in Tampa and Orlando, they spend closer to 20%. In Miami, it's about 35%. In Jacksonville, for every $2 we spend in our general fund, $1 goes to public safety. Now, we choose to invest in our first responders because when a crisis hits, seconds matter and lives are at stake, and we also have more than 840 square miles of city to cover. That's hundreds more than any other Florida city. And don't forget, we did just this past year strike a historic deal for police and fire with pensions for new hires, and also a big pay raise because they really needed it. Frankly, they were losing out to other departments. They were having trouble with recruiting because we had gone to another system which didn't help them to retain firefighters and police officers. And we felt this was, in our discussions with them, incredibly necessary if we were going to maintain strong public safety. I want you to take a look at this slide. This reaffirms something that I have said over and over. In Jacksonville, we run a lean budget. Our overall city budget per resident is among the lowest in the state. I'm not bragging on that. I'm just telling you that is the fact. And we're doing it with the lowest property tax rate of any major city by far. Despite being efficient and the city with the lowest tax rate in Florida, you may have heard that some on the city council would like to cut this lean budget. The other night, they did vote to keep our millage rate flat, but they're going to come back for another vote on September the 23rd. They were missing a council person. They were going to have that council person back on the 23rd. So it's going to be an interesting night. Let me say a few words about the millage rate here. The issue arose during questioning in my last town hall meeting, so I want to make sure that everybody understands it, just to make sure. Our citizens at the last meeting requested a brief explanation of what the millage rate is, so I just want to discuss that briefly. So think of the millage rate as the price that we all chip in for every $1,000 of our home's taxable values to keep the city running. is what pays for everyday things we count on, like police and fire and rescue and parks and libraries and street repairs and things like this. So each year, the city council sets that rate to match the services in the budget. And given that we as a city already pay the lowest rate in the state, have I made that clear? Even a small change, as currently proposed by the city council, can add up to a significant cutback on what we can deliver for our community. The current proposed property tax rate or millage rate cut will result in the average homeowner saving a little more than $1 per month. You heard that correctly. Your average homeowner, after your homestead exemption, will get about $1.50 back in your pocket with the millage rate cut that we're talking about. But it's going to cost us a lot more than that in terms of what we can provide to our city. That, by the way, amounts to about 5 cents a day. It does nothing for the roughly half of the people in our city who rent and are not homeowners. The cuts City Council is fussing over they're less than 1% of the overall budget, but they add up to approximately $14 million, which may seem small, but it adds up to more than $76 million over the next 5 years, taking into account the impact for compounding. See, that's the problem. When you cut the millage, it continues to go forward like that, and you're already hearing the talk. And this is one of the things that I've said to them. You think when we come back here again in an election year, they're not going to tell you to do this again next year? Sure they are. So compounding is a big deal with this, even if we just cut the eighth. That's not belt tightening. It risks compromising public safety and the essential services in the future. It's just a gimmick that does nothing to address the affordability crisis that is top of mind for most residents in our city. You talk to folks, and what they tell you they really want is for people to address their insurance rates. We're not getting to any of that. This is a deflection to another direction that really doesn't give us much. As I mentioned earlier, the millage rate cut that about half of the council wants translates to roughly 5 cents a day for an average homeowner, but $5 a day for a corporate landlord. It favors the people at the very top who are the least in need of a tax break like this. But look at what that tax break costs the city collectively. Fewer affordable homes, more homeless, hungrier senior citizens, overcrowded emergency rooms, sicker adults, and all this adding up to lost economic opportunity. I'm going to talk a lot, as I usually do tonight, about return on investment, because I can make a moral argument for why we shouldn't have seniors going hungry all day long, but I can also show you why it hurts us as a bottom line, why it hurts our economy and ultimately hurts all of our pocketbooks. So here's the reality. We're the fastest growing city in the state of Florida. Hopefully, as you're seeing all the cranes in the air and the businesses choosing to expand in Jacksonville, we do have some good momentum in terms of economic development. We're handling it well so far. People from across the country and around the world are coming to Jacksonville. So I want you to look at this slide. It took Jacksonville 50 years to grow by 500,000 people from the time of our consolidation to the present day. At the current rate of our growth, the next 500,000 will be added in half that time, between now and 2050. Now, I know that doesn't make all of you happy, but that's just the reality. So it's all going to come down to how well we handle that growth. What are we doing to make sure that we can absorb that growth and make sure we have a good quality of life for our citizens? Growth brings new jobs, businesses, and opportunities. However, the data illustrates that without investment in our people, we will remain a tale of two cities, with parts of our city benefiting from this growth while others fall increasingly behind. Look at how long our residents live. Did you know that as a city, our average life expectancy is 2 years lower than the state and national averages? The good news is that on average, residents who live around Fletcher, around your neighborhood, can expect to live to be 82. But in College Garden, near UF Health downtown, the median life expectancy is just 62. A good 20 years shorter than folks in this neighborhood, but an astonishing 25 years shorter than those living in the Loretto neighborhood near Mandarin, where on average folks live to be 87. That's what I am trying to change I ran on making this a city that works for everybody. And I want that to be the case, and that's what my budget will always reflect. Because when we are living and investing with purpose, we don't just balance ledgers, we add life to years and years to life. We also supercharge our economy. Tonight, I'm going to highlight 3 investments the Finance Committee cut or reduced, and I'm asking for your help to get them fully restored. Our budget is a budget for the people. Our proposals for affordable housing, address hunger, and access to health care, they won't solve every problem, but they are lifelines to those who receive assistance. They help thousands of people move from surviving to thriving. And for the rest of us, it means economic benefit that comes from keeping our citizens healthy and in their homes. So let's start with affordable housing and homelessness. We've all heard about the cost of housing lately, especially, right? When the family spends more than 30% of their income on housing-related costs, that family is considered cost burdened. In 10 of our 14 council districts, the housing cost burden exceeds the national average. That should move us from debate to action. I proposed nearly $12 million for affordable housing and homelessness prevention. The Finance Committee cut $7.8 million, which includes every bit of our local funding for making housing more affordable. These initiatives were a continuation of pilot programs that have a proven track record for success. I want to say that again because it's important. I've had people say, well, gosh, this doesn't make housing more affordable for everybody. The bottom line of what we're trying to do is show a proof of concept so the private sector will do more investing. Does that make sense? So that's what we're working on with these programs. Here's what these projects would accomplish in year 1. We would build 60 additional affordable homes. We would help 85 working families buy their first home. We would keep 80 families in their homes by diverting them from eviction, and we would move hundreds more into transitional housing. The idea is to keep at-risk families from falling into homelessness, which has a follow-on effect on our economy. When a family can afford a safe home, kids are healthier, work is steadier, and neighborhoods are stronger. Doing all that is obviously the right thing to do, or I say obviously, to me the right thing to do, but it's also the economic imperative. These programs, which we hope the full council will restore, would provide an economic benefit of over $30 million in the first year, a return on investment of over 300%. If the moral reasons for keeping families housed don't persuade our council, then I hope the economic reasons can move the needle. Now, access to food. This is a quiet emergency in plain sight. Nearly 1 in 5 of our neighbors cannot reliably afford groceries, even before you factor in inflation. Hunger in our community is so widespread that 9 of 14 city council districts clock in above the national average. Hunger is also expensive. It adds thousands in healthcare costs per person per year. Every missed meal weakens a household and slows our local economy. We need to treat this like smart infrastructure. Invest $1 now to prevent an ER visit later. That's why my budget included $2.21 million for Meals on Wheels to support 2,000 older adults who are basically shut-ins. They can't go to our senior centers. This is the meal that they get for the day. The Finance Committee cut and then only partially restored that funding, and we need the full funding restored because rising inflation will only exacerbate the problem of hunger. We receive an amazing return on investment for this Meals on Wheels program, about $4.8 million in reduced healthcare spending every year. That's a roughly 100% return on investment. It all gives our homebound seniors dignity as well, which is incredibly important to me. So let's be the city where no seniors or kids go hungry and no working family has to choose between groceries and the light bill. Finally, access to health care. If you have tried to book a doctor's appointment, you know the wait. Our data confirms what families live through every day. Jacksonville has fewer primary care physicians and pediatricians than Orlando, Tampa, or Miami. I talked about this a lot when I was running for office. Our primary health numbers are poor. And a lot of that has to do with, primary care is very inexpensive. What gets expensive is when you get cancer or you get some sort of exotic disease that you have to spend a lot on. Primary care is cheap, but yeah, we have a lot of people that don't have access to it because we don't have the physicians. So we're trying to connect people to the services that are out there. When primary care is out of reach, people turn to the ER, parents miss work, and preventable conditions become chronic. The human cost is heavy and the economic cost is real. That's why I've called for investment in our telehealth program through HealthLink Jax and primary care access via Jax Care Connect. Now, interestingly, Jax Care Connect is a program that City Council set up. They did a lengthy survey called the Critical Quality of Life Survey, and these were their suggestions of things that needed to happen. We have been funding this, and it's been extraordinarily successful, and now we're cutting back. Why? Because the narrative is we want to return money, we want to return $1.50 to people into their pockets every month because, frankly, it polls well. That's the bottom line. The investment here is modest at $3.9 million. Again, the Finance Committee cut these programs and then only restored some of the funding. However, we need funding to be fully restored as thousands of our neighbors are likely to be pushed out of Affordable Care Act or Medicaid because of the bill that Congress just passed. So if you're not following this, by 2027, between 16 and 17 million people around our country will lose health care if nothing is done to rectify the bill that was just passed. In Jacksonville, that will translate to between 30 and 50,000 people. It's not higher because we never expanded Medicaid in Florida. But 30 to 50,000 people is going to be a lot of people for the city of Jacksonville, and that's only going to exacerbate our problem of folks who can't get care. So these small investments really pay off in reduced emergency room visits and productivity gains that come from a healthy workforce. The investment from these two programs has a return on investment of approximately 248%. Primary care is civic infrastructure. It keeps families healthy, businesses productive, and our safety net strong. So let me close with a simple truth. A responsible budget does not just fund police and fire. It opens doors to a set of house keys, a stocked pantry, and a doctor's visit on time. And these investments pay for themselves and then some. If you want to dive deeper into some of the data behind tonight's presentation, visit our data tank at stateofjax.org, which incidentally the Finance Committee also cut from our proposed budget. But we're talking to the private sector about trying to find ways to get that funded. Hiding data from our people is not a recipe for success, but ask any successful business. What would they do without data? How do you know that what you're investing in is working? How do you know that that investment isn't just throwing money down a hole if you don't have data to go back and look and see what's happening? We need this data. It's good for us. My budget goals are simple and common sense. Safer streets, stronger neighborhoods, and a city where talent meets affordability. Jacksonville is on the move, and now we must decide whether our momentum will lead to shared prosperity or only benefit a handful of well-connected folks. So I'm hoping that we will choose to invest in our people and our future as a city. And I'm grateful to say that both the Civic Council and the police and fire unions have really come out publicly in force supporting what I have just said to you. That's a big deal. There's been a lot of private pressure for a long time on council to not go here. But to have our police and fire unions, who really don't like to come out publicly against anything, really. They have been so supported by the council and this mayor's office, but they see the handwriting on the wall. And what they have said to me repeatedly is, yeah, we realize this is going to cause a huge strain on public safety. I don't care what they say that they're going to protect public safety with all the costs coming down the pike from returning to a defined pension to the pay increases. It's going to put a strain on public safety. But they also understand that it's going to put an incredible burden on our quality of life. And so I appreciate them very, very much for coming out and making their voices heard. And now I would like to hear your voices. So please come up to the microphone and share anything you'd like to share or ask any question that you would like to ask. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, Mayor. My name's Don Ford, and I haven't seen this question asked. How much money in this tax cut are the big boys going to save? Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Heritage Bank, the banks, all those big buildings downtown. I haven't seen those numbers. How much will they save? I mean,
Well, look, obviously,
my $1.50, you can have it, but
obviously, the larger the tax bill, you know, the larger the amount of money that you're going to save.
Exactly.
I mean, that's true. That's true of. The question is how much of that gets passed on to our citizens. That's the question. And I don't see, especially, you know, if you look at like a big corporate landlord, I don't see that money getting passed back to. And I'm not vilifying those folks. I understand that they have a job. And they're important to our economy, but none of that gets passed on to our citizens, and that is ostensibly what we're being told this is about, is making sure that your average citizen gets some relief in the pocketbook. And what we continue to hear over and over again is that the relief I want is in property taxes. I'm not property taxes, insurance rates, not property taxes. As you know, over the years, if you followed it, you know that every year, or basically every year, the state has put more restrictions on the amount of revenue that we can get from property taxes. So already we're very limited in terms of how much those are going to go up locally.
So that cut is across the board, though, for all the big boys.
That's right.
And us.
It's everybody.
So if you reduce us by 1 mil, they get reduced by 1 mil also.
Well, yeah, it's 1/8 of a mil that we're talking about right now, but yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? What's your name?
My name's Carol Brady. I'm a resident of Atlantic Beach and a member of the leadership team of the Beaches Activist Movement.
Thank you.
So we would like to thank you, Mayor Deegan, and your staff for all your work in putting this budget together in an effort to really address the needs of both current and future of the residents of Jacksonville. We decry the efforts of the city council members who are pushing for basically, as you've outlined, performative cuts in the millage rate, and also the work to include those divisive amendments addressing DEI, abortion, and immigrants. Unfortunately, that includes our own city council member representing the beach, Rory Diamond. I almost feel like we need to apologize for him, but just know he does not represent the views of the good people at the beach. We believe the city budget process should include an open discussion and debate on the city's priorities. People are going to disagree coming from their different perspectives, and we should all work together to find common ground. But I don't think that's what we've seen in this budget process. We've seen theater, political theater, and that does not serve the residents of the beach or the city of Jacksonville well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. You know, I'm gonna say that Rory used to live down the street from me, and I think when he was running for office, I was expecting a much different council person than the one that we have received. I too am very disappointed in all that. Obviously, part of this bill is one that I vetoed earlier in the year that was sustained by the city council, but he wants to put it in the budget because these divisive amendments only would need 10 votes instead of the 13 to override a veto if it was an individual bill. So he wants to put them into the budget knowing that he may have the votes then to put those divisive amendments. Here's the bottom line. I don't care how you feel about any of those issues. They are all important issues to discuss. They do not belong in a city budget because they are not budget items. There is absolutely not a dollar attached to any of those things. And this is really, this is what I feel like I'm reliving a bad movie in terms of what we're dealing with. When I was running for this office, I am so of the belief that we have got to start seeing each other's humanity and talking to each other like people and like neighbors, and regardless of how we feel about stuff, respect each other's ability and right to say and believe what we want to believe. But the constant effort to bring these Washington culture wars back to Jacksonville, which we never used to do, not to this level, is so hurtful to our community. And I hope somehow we can get past that. Unfortunately, what you're seeing here is you're seeing a lot of pressure coming from other places, and you're seeing a lot of council members who want to move on to other positions, and I respect that, but they feel like they have to take a certain stance in order to get to the next place on the totem pole. And what I am trying to have them remember is you're going to be most successful if you do a good job for your citizens. And I think that's I do think that, I'm not saying they don't love their city. I believe they do. I just believe that they've got it in their minds that this is the only way to get there. And I hope you will let them know that it is not. Okay, who's next? Come on up.
My thing here, and I'm probably going to get some people that are...
What is your name?
My name is Rick Reed.
Hi, Rick.
Hi. And I've lived at the beach all my life. In fact, I'm a member of the first graduating class of the school. And so I've been here a while. I have a house that's been in my family for 50 years. I moved in to take care of my mom, who passed away 3 years ago. And she has been in that house for a long time. Her taxes on this house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house at Jack's Beach, was $1,400, which she died in 2021. I put the house in my name down at the tax assessor, and I was floored by what the taxes went up to. I thought they were going to double, $2,600. It went up to $4,400. Now I got my last bill for this proposed year, $5,300. This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I know a couple, a friend of mine, who was at a house in South Jack's Beach, who lived there for years. They sold their house for $3.5 million. They bought another house that's $1.4 million. They're paying less taxes than I am. Now, how can you explain that?
They're paying less taxes because they have a homestead exemption on that property.
Just like I do.
But when you changed over, you were paying then on...
Oh, it went up. Yes, it went up because it was under my mom's name.
Right. So hers would have only been allowed to go up 3%, right? Because she had that homestead exemption. Every year they could go up 3%.
Right.
That's the cap.
Right.
I think probably because you changed everything over to your name, I'm not going to tell you I understand all the intricacies, but is that probably the issue that we're dealing with here, folks?
It's probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's our home values have definitely gone way up because home values have gone up, period. But Mike, do you want to address this? Come on up.
Be a single parent paying that.
When you have that benefit in the house and you're in it a long time, you carry some of that benefit to the next house you buy.
Yes.
If you buy it here, that's why the million doesn't equate. They carry some of that reduction in value to the new house they bought.
But my house on Zillow is worth $430,000. Theirs is 1.4. They just bought it. Now, why is the discrepancy that much? I mean, we're talking $700,000, $800,000. Why is it that much? That's probably the problem we're having with our property taxes. Because so they've been in the house for a long time. Okay, fine. But I mean, it's killing me.
I absolutely hear what you're saying. I do think there are people that get stuck in that middle, area. But at the end of the day, saving a buck or two a month is not going to change your problem.
Oh no, I'm not saying about what you were saying.
Yeah, but I hear you on that. I really do. I'm not sure what the answer to that problem is beyond the fact that you're going to make a lot of money when you sell that house. Because,
that doesn't do me any good when I'm living.
I got
Maybe
you.
my
I do
kids, when I
understand
die, make them money. But,
yeah, there is, but there's got to be a way to address that problem.
Yes.
without taking a hatchet to our
I mean,
entire
I'm not going to give any
entire
names
budget.
out to these people, but because, you know, they're good friends of mine, but I'm just feel that if we bring some of these others down, and which could lower the taxes for people like me, because I'm not making $1.4 million to
Yep.
support that house.
I hear you. Yep.
So, but I think there's such a discrepancy in the tax system, the way they have it figured up. And
Yeah.
that's the problem.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Just to follow up on his thing.
What's your name?
My name's Duke Lewis.
Hi,
I'm a
Duke.
resident of Jacksonville Beach. To follow up on his, I think that's why you're going to keep hearing about property tax reform. It's kind of like the American dream. You buy a house, you pay it off, and you'll be able to pass it on to your kids. Almost like that situation. But because the way homeowners and portability and making sure your name's on it, there's people that have bought houses here in the 50s, had them paid for in the 80s, and now because a business can put a duplex on their home or because the dirt underneath it. Again, those taxes went up on him. He didn't get a new air conditioner. He didn't get a new roof. The idea, and that's why you're going to hear more about property tax reform, and I understand how detrimental it's going to be, and I understand we're going to need new ways to think about funding. But those stories right there, the fact that people can't pass their properties on to their children because all of a sudden they skyrocketed in value, again, because a business can step in and build a duplex and make profit on it. People are not paying this much money to live in these houses. They're paying this much money to tear them down and make money on them. And that's something that the property appraiser in the state will have to take. But if I could ask my question, it
Sure.
kind of follows along that. So, Madam Mayor, I am concerned. With the city council pushing for a millage rate that you've said only saves homeowners about $1 a month, are we debating these small amounts when future expenses like the pension debt, like the infrastructure costs for the jail, will require likely coming back to ask for tax increases or deeper cuts? And my idea is, we have larger expenses on the horizon, and it seems we're so lean that this 13 million is knocking us out. Do we need to start talking about next year, and you're going to have big ticket items that are coming up? Because I assume the jail, and I agree that firemen and policemen need these pensions. Do we have a defined way to pay for it? You know, is that going to be the next drag? As I understand, we never had pension reform. We stopped one pension and started a different, correct? There was no reform to it. We stopped, and then the traditional pension, we began to offer the IRA compensation.
We went to the Florida retirement system is what
That's
we did.
where we're at
Yeah.
now, correct?
Yeah,
And
that's what we left the city system and went to Florida
Okay,
retirement system.
all new hires are in the FRS, both police and fire?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well,
Okay.
they will have a choice.
An election, okay. I think that my question to you, if I would surmise it, with the big cost we see on the horizon, seeing how detrimental this 13 million is to us, is that a sign that larger cuts are going to come and maybe
Well, listen,
we need to absorb these?
Thank you for that question. This is why it's so important. The one question I was asked by our finance chair this year was, please come to us with a budget that doesn't take any money out of reserves. And that was hard. We have a ton of money in reserves, by the way, way more than our targeted amount. But that's fine. And that's good. Helps us with our AA+ rating, so we love that. But we came with a budget that was super lean. We kept our departments flat. Our city is growing like a weed, but we kept our departments flat. So basically we said, go in and show us where you can be leaner, and they all did, okay? So we are planning for the money that we have. We're never gonna let the city go into any sort of crazy debt, right? We've reduced our capital improvement plan numbers on things that we were never gonna build to begin with, that were just dragging us down, and need to continue to do that. But I've heard a number of these council people who are advocating for this cut say, you know, the drag about this is we're going to have to come back and ask people to raise it. They're not. You think they're going to do that? How many? Certainly not next year. And I don't want my goal. This is all in my mind a game of, you know, let's make the mayor look like she's trying to fight against a tax reduction. I am the only mayor that hasn't increased taxes, okay? The mayor before me increased them a couple of times. And that's fine. I'm not criticizing that. I'm simply saying this is a narrative that doesn't hold water. What my team has done incredibly well is created lean processes to make sure that we can remain within our means and still fund what we have put into the budget to fund. So what you're seeing is an effort to push us into a bad place. And that is all political, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people that have different political values than I do. I talk about fiscal responsibility. I don't talk about fiscal conservatism. I talk about fiscal responsibility. They're two different things. I believe you got to fund more than police and fire and trash. I think you got to fund the things that the private sector isn't taking care of in your city that are critical quality of life issues. And so some of us have a different philosophy, but we absolutely have been living within our means. And I say that it's important for you to know that every one of the rating agencies either gave us a AA rating or a AA plus rating for how we are handling it and our level of debt that we have right now. So we're doing very well. But we can't cut what is not there to cut and continue to do that. And I promise you they'll come back for more next year because we'll be in an election year. As far as the jail goes, since you specifically brought that up, that's going to be $1 billion expenditure at least, but we're looking to do a lease on that. We're not looking to actually, go into debt for $1 billion on that jail. That's how a lot of them are getting done now. But it's still going to be a big expense, and we're in the process of doing that right now. You bet. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your comments on the millage. I'm going to say again, I think there's got to be a way to fix that without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. For when you are basically taking millions out of your city budget, and for half of your citizens who rent, they're getting nothing, and the great majority of the people out there are getting almost nothing in return for what you're going to lose city services for. So to me, that's a fix that needs to be made in terms of the system. That should be a separate argument to me from what we're talking about now with the millage. That's my opinion, but I appreciate your comments. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Joy Essler.
Joy.
And unfortunately, I disagree. Our millage rate should actually be cut. Comparing to St. Johns County, for the same house that I own in Jacks Beach, they pay half of what I pay in taxes. My taxes on a 1940s house has doubled in the past 10 years. I have to choose between actually getting insurance or paying my property taxes. I want to have the reduction because it's the difference between keeping my house or not. There's a lot of people, not just senior citizens, also in the beaches area. Our area is affluent, but there are a lot of people that are still struggling to pay their property taxes, to pay their insurance, to pay for their living expenses. Reduce the taxes. I'm also a CPA. I'm also a self-employed person. You can still cut. You can still look at an organization and keep it flat and keep improving what it actually offers. There's redundancies everywhere, especially in government. I audited government as part of my career. There's always things that can be done. But we also have to benefit our citizens, and I could use the reduction. I know a lot of other people could too. There should not be free tickets to elected officials. There should not be free tickets to staff or to families either. No one should be getting free tickets. You want to go to something, you pay for it just like everyone else. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Joy, I hear the pain. I hear your anger. I appreciate you for coming tonight and sharing that. I'm going to say to you again, from my perspective, what we're doing with this millage cut is not going to be the answer to your pain.
Actually, it will. That
a buck
$700
a month is going to help you that much?
That will help me every single month because over time, it will make a difference to keeping my house or not. I want to keep my house.
You need the system to be reformed is what you need.
No, actually, I don't need my taxes to increase over 10 years, double over 10 years. And that's what's happened.
And that is your property tax rate?
That's
or that
my
is your,
property
or that
tax.
is your insurance rate?
That is my property tax. Yes, thank you. Exactly.
$26 billion return on that, by the way. To the city of Jacksonville, to
But
our
it's not
citizens,
helping my
that is services
taxes.
to you.
It's not helping my taxes
Okay.
and what I have to pay and what we all have to pay for that benefit.
Well, I would invite you to take a deep dive into those numbers, because if you're a CPA,
As a CPA, you betcha.
you ought to look.
You want to give it to me? I will audit every single number of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate it.
That was my job. You want to talk about large organizations? At Blue Cross, that was my job, was to cut money and find projects to do that. I encourage you, Mayor. You want me to do the same? I'll come do it for free.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate you coming. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm
Good-
Jim Cole
Hi,
from
Jim.
Neptune Beach. Is there someone on your staff who could tell us if the millage rates have doubled in the last 10 years?
Well, no, they haven't.
So maybe property appraisals have gone up,
Yes.
and that might
Your
drive up.
property values have gone up dramatically over the last several years. Yes.
And then the portability was designed to allow people to move more easily and keep the real estate market moving.
That is the idea.
So there may be tax elements which are disadvantaged to many that could be reformed, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about a minor millage change to make important investments into the infrastructure of our people.
That's right.
I'm a retired architect. If you didn't invest in the built infrastructure, if you didn't maintain your bridges, they would collapse. The cost of replacing a bridge is profoundly more expensive than maintaining it. If you don't invest in the human infrastructure, they will have collapses also. And that is why I thought your return on investments were credible. And I appreciate what you're doing. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I want to make it really clear. And I could just feel how Joy is feeling, and that some of you others are feeling with some of the burdens that you have. But I think that is an incredibly important point. We have been a city for so long that never quite gets over. We have so many people. You've heard how many people in our council districts are below the national average in terms of so many things. And the reason is because of lack of investment in our people. And we have to invest in these quality of life issues. We have a blessing and a curse of having a city that's 840 square miles, right? It's a big city. That's a big burden for public safety, but it's also a big burden for infrastructure. But there is all kinds of infrastructure, and I think human infrastructure is probably the most important that we face. So thank you for that. I appreciate that comment. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
What's your name?
Douglas Maley.
Hi,
from
Douglas.
Atlantic Beach. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. So Florida Doge took a look at your budget, came up with plenty of opportunities for savings. So where are those savings in your budget?
I don't think we've heard back from Florida Doge yet. We haven't heard back on anything from Florida Doge. But I do want to make a point on that. What you're talking about is our local Doge.
No.
No? Florida Doge hasn't come out with, as far as I know, have we come out with a report from
CFO?
Florida Doge yet? No.
CFO, Blaze.
No,
ignored
Blaze
it.
came here and took all of our information, but we haven't gotten anything back yet in terms of but let me just say
Well,
this.
you say there's not, go ahead.
Let me just finish. there's a statement that council loves to remind me of. The mayor proposes, the council disposes. I present a budget every year. The budget that is finalized at the end of that year belongs to all of us, but city council gets the final say on what is spent and what is not spent. So the budget that we come up with belongs to all of us. I can't spend anything that the council won't allow me to spend. So the budget that you've seen, and I will argue to you again, that is incredibly lean. This is what we've tried to show the state, that we have done more with less than anybody out there and continue to provide the services for our citizens that we need. But as far as Florida Doge, we have not gotten any report back yet from Blaze and from the CFO.
So that's, I'm a little bit confused only because if you go out on the internet there and you look at their recommendations, Florida Doge for the city of Jacksonville, it's out there.
We have not received anything back from, but feel free to enlighten me. We haven't received anything official back from Florida Doge.
The state Doge team pointed to $20 to $50 million of potential savings, including $17 million in unspent funds and $13 million from vacant positions and overtime.
Yeah, so we identify the vacant positions also, but that is Jacksonville Doge. That is what Jacksonville Doge did. So if you heard that from Blaze, he was taking what the finance committee or what the Doge committee locally was telling him they found. So basically, that's not real. Those are monies that have been proposed but not committed. So these are hypothetical savings. These aren't this is not money that we have spent. It's not money that we have. It is money that they've gone and said, okay, we've got all of this. We've taken out. We have worked hard to lower the amount of people in our city government in terms of those positions. But those monies are, Mike, can you explain this better than me? I think you probably can. Yes, please, because I think this is an important point. Even the council auditors, who normally are sacrosanct to the city council, have said, these are not real funds. This is not real money.
I'm Mike Weinstein, city employee. An example, let's say we want to build some roads, and the roads cost $30 million, and we put it in our capital improvement plan. We don't do anything until we start. All right, we agree to spend $30 million on a road project. When we start working on that road project, we spend money that we have in our reserves, and then at the end of the year, we borrow money to replace our reserves. So basically, when we do capital improvement programs, we decide that we're going to borrow money to do this. But many of the projects never get done, as the mayor said. So the CIP project for $30 million that we were going to build a road, but we decided and changed our mind. We have on the books the possibility of doing that road and then borrowing money for it. But if we never do it, we never spent a penny. And what the Doge committee is doing, they're canceling projects. They're finding projects that are closed. They're finding projects that weren't done. And they're saying they've saved money. They didn't save real cash money. They saved us from going ahead on a project that we would start spending money on and then borrow to replenish our money. It's basically if in your home, if you wanted a new refrigerator, you take it out of savings, but then maybe you would go borrow on a credit card or something to replace your savings. That's what we do. We have $400, $500, $600 million in the bank, reserves and other dollars. We spend that money on projects, and then after we spend that money, we borrow to replenish it. That way we're not borrowing early and paying taxes on things before we really needed to. We pay for them ourselves, and then we borrow to replenish ourselves, so we always have the $500 or $600 or $700 million in reserve. The Doge committee basically just closed out projects that we just didn't do. It never did. And then they said they saved money. What they did is they saved us from spending money in the future and borrowing for it. I don't know if I explained that to anybody's understanding. The bottom line is, the headline is they saved money, but it's not real cash money. It's money that we were going to spend, but didn't.
You did great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. No, that was great. By the way, for those of you who are into team sports, Mike is a Republican. I got every kind of party affiliation and then some in my administration, because it's not about that. In the city of Jacksonville, we should all be Team Jacksonville. And this constant, you know, until we stop treating our local politics, especially, I can't do anything about the dysfunction elsewhere, but in local politics, we should not be treating our politics like a team sport. We should be just all working for the betterment of Jacksonville. Okay, anybody next? Come on up, ma'am. Thank you. What's your name?
I'm Creasy Washington. I live at San Pablo and Atlantic, so I still consider myself to be Atlantic, Jacksonville Beach. My grandson is a freshman here at Fletcher, been here over 10 years in this area. And my question is about and I do have a home health care business, and I do have a nonprofit that help the homeless. My question is, when you say affordable housing, what are we looking at as in the terms of affordable housing for people as far as renting and, like you said, getting them to this point where they can buy? Because being a resident here, we know, it's cost more to live, but even with my husband being military, they look at your credit. You got to have perfect credit, well, not perfect credit, but a certain credit score to be considered to buy a house. Even with the military service that the people done did, they still look at that. Then you got to pay first month, last month deposit to get in my home, and I'm renting. I paid over $8,000 just to get in there. That was first month rent, last month rent, and a deposit. And I'm paying over $2,500 a month to stay there, which it would never be mine unless he decides to sell to me.
Yep.
So that's what we need, like you said, we need to start looking at things like that.
Yes.
To try to help people move along in life.
I agree with that.
Military.
I agree.
Military.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
Yes,
We have focused heavily on military affairs and veteran services since I've been in this office. Where I think we may be the only city that has an office dedicated to that in the administration.
Yes.
But we have. If your family is military, there may be some additional things that we can do connect you to there. So make sure that you see one of. Is Josh here? Oh, Josh, come on up, Josh. Josh Hicks is our Director of Affordable Housing, which is also a position we didn't have before. Josh is so much more advanced at talking about this than I am, but let me just say there's a difference between a lot of what we're talking about is workforce housing, which is, for teachers and firefighters and hospitality workers and things like that. Then you have your folks who are more in the line of the what is it, 80% AMI. I'm gonna let Josh tell you about what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and why I think those efforts are important.
Thank you, Mayor. And that was a great question. I think one of the things we're trying to do is put more housing supply in the market. Right now, if you look at the numbers, which, for housing after COVID, we weren't prepared for the real estate increases that occurred. Property taxes went up, rents went up, the housing supply was not there. So right now we're trying to get as many units on the market as possible. Since the mayor was elected, we have over 6,000 below market rate units that are either in planning, under construction, or hitting the market. I think the last 3 years of the previous administration, they only had 1,000. So that sort of gives you an idea of our focus of getting these below market rate units on the market. To your question, We go by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. They have 80% AMI is usually the affordable level. If you're an individual, you can make $54,500 a year. And then there's rents associated with that. Basically to what you can pay based off of a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, etc. What we're really seeing is we're really, really short in housing at the 60%, which is about $39,000 a year, $40,000 a year for an individual, 60% AMI and lower. And quite frankly, if you're an extremely low income individual, 30% AMI, making about $27,000 a year, we only have about 30 units for every 100 households right now in Jacksonville that needs it. The waiting list with Jacksonville Housing Authority is about 27,000 right now. And that's really the 30% AMI. So we're in a housing crisis. The money the mayor proposed that was completely cut, again, every dollar of affordable housing was cut out of this budget. We're hoping to get it restored, but as of now, it's been cut. Some of it goes to like a down payment assistance program. The housing division where I work, we have a H2H, a 80% or lower down payment assistance program. The one the mayor proposed, which helped put nearly 90 people, families, into housing or into their first home, was 80 to 120% AMI. It's our nurses, our first responders, our police officers. When they're in their first or second year, their salaries aren't like their 5th or 10th year. So they are starting at a need for affordable housing. Your city council person is a part-time city council. Their salary is about $62,000 a year, which is 85% AMI. So they need affordable and workforce housing if that's their only job. So we need to make sure that we're covering the entire spectrum of the community in terms of housing, but we really need to make sure that while we're building more housing supply, we're focused on keeping people housed so that they don't become unhoused. And that is why the mayor proposed the policies that she proposed, because we've seen the return on investment just in the first year of those policies. And if we can help even a little bit, it helps take the strain off of some of our other programs. Like we give money through housing to Catholic Charities every year to cover the to cover the deposit so that you can then afford the rent. So instead of you having to pay your deposit, you're just going to pay the rent. And then we have organizations that'll help you cover that large deposit that you might not have in savings. So all these programs help take the strain off of the other programs that we already have in place and allows us to communicate this information to the public.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you so much. Yes, ma'am. What is your name?
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I live in South Jacks Beach.
Hi, Rachel.
My husband and I are both renters, and so what I wanted to talk about was affordable housing. So this was a good opportunity for that. So we are actually in the top 5% of earners for our age range, according to the most recent IRS data for household incomes. However, we cannot afford to buy a home in the community where we live. A large portion of the problem affecting us is the low supply of homes because of the prevalence of short-term rentals, aka Airbnb. Some 800 homes in Jacks Beach area are short-term rentals. That's just Jacks Beach, so, you know. Other cities are cracking down on short-term rentals as they are destroying their communities. If 800 homes were to enter the market, the prices would drop and help people buy a home instead of benefiting investment companies who treat housing as a business. I am asking for awareness in an issue that is affecting young families without existing home ownership. And is this an issue on your radar?
Absolutely is an issue on our radar. We know it's a problem. There are some challenges in trying to deal with it, but we have to. We're talking about a number of different solutions right now, but absolutely on our radar. Make sure that you're talking to your Jacksonville Beach City Council about that as well. But absolutely, we know it's a problem. It has been a difficult one to get our arms around and to solve, but we are actively looking at ways to do that. I promise you. I do understand it's a big problem. I'm a Beaches resident too. I get it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Dowling.
Hi, Cheryl.
she addressed part of what I was wondering about. One of the reasons that our homes and rent costs so much is because of all these corporations that are coming in, buying up single family houses and apartments. And the problem is exacerbated because you have a corporation or many corporations that will buy multiple properties and multiple homes. And so there's no competition. They just charge whatever they want to charge. And the rest of us are, I've been in my home for over 30 years. I can't move. No way in the world can I move. I'm 74 years old. If I should become disabled or, have problems living in my home, I don't know what I'll do because, after that length of time, I can't find any other place to live, no matter how small it might be. There is no other place in Jacksonville that I could afford.
I absolutely hear your frustration, and it's real all over the city. It's not just at the beaches, but we do have a particular problem out here with that. We know it's a problem, and frankly, a lot of people get sucked into short-term benefit from these sales, and then it hurts everybody else. But we are absolutely looking at it. Okay, who's next? Anybody else? Carolyn, good to see you.
Well, it's wonderful seeing you and your entire staff. And I say congratulations for these town halls all around the city. So, okay, my name is Carolyn Zisser. I live in Atlantic Beach. My husband and I have been here a long, long time. About 53 years. Actually, maybe 51 at the beach, 2 years in an apartment in town. But anyway, who's counting? I wanted to speak strongly in favor of your budget and strongly against Rory Diamond's amendment. So, and I'm also a proud member of Beaches Activists. I heard everything that Carol Brady said, and I agree with it. And it's not just a matter of politics, it's really an issue of culture wars. So I have two questions. Number one, how can everyone here and another 10 people who everyone here talks to make a difference so that on September 23rd, the city council votes to uphold and pass your budget? That's my first question. Second question is, and something I learned from you tonight, among the many things, of course, I always learn from you, is that the finance committee of the city council further cut your budget line items that otherwise you wanted to have in the budget for affordable housing and the like. So I'd like you to speak to that as well, if you would, please.
Thank you, Carolyn. So that's what they do. So the budget immediately goes to the finance committee, which then makes whatever adjustments it wants to make to the budget, and then those get passed on to the full council for consideration. But they're basically in there unless the council votes to either leave those cuts in or take them out. So on the 23rd, that will be the final vote on what is in and what is out. It's interesting because one of the things I wanted to make sure that I said today is I had a meeting. Do y'all know what the CPACs are? Okay, the CPACs basically are the voice of the community. They are an arm of the city, but they basically are they're opportunities for all of our different communities around the city to connect and make their voices heard on a broader level. And I sat down with them today, and they said, it feels like we write all these letters to city council and we show up to all these LUZ meetings and we show up and we say what our citizens want, but nobody listens to us. I get that. A lot of these votes become predetermined by whatever group, whoever, you get these little clusters of folks who are loyal to various different things, and that's how the votes go. But I told them, and I will tell you, I think, just like police and fire, who have been putting incredible pressure on the council behind the scenes for a while, but hadn't come out publicly, it's the public pressure that gets to these folks. I can't give you any guarantees, but you got to write the letters to your council people, and you can find how to do that on the city website at jacksonville.gov. But you got to follow that because you want that record that you reached out, whether they ever got back to you or not. You want that. But then you got to show up at the city council meetings and sign those little cards to speak. And I don't care if you got to keep them there till 2:00 in the morning. They should hear from you. And they may still not do what you want, but everybody's going to see what the deal is. And eventually that public pressure adds up. Council should be responsive to what their constituents are saying they want. So you got to show up. You got to show up and you got to speak out. And that's what I would say to you. I know that's not revolutionary, but I would say any groups that you have, just as many people as care about this topic should show up. On the culture war issue, I've said, these are two different things that will be taken up. What Rory is trying to do is make those issues part of our city budget. I am sincerely hopeful that the full council will not support that. I don't know. I know that it divides and hurts our city, and I know there's no reason for it because there's no dollar amount connected to any of those items. We don't spend money on any of those things in the city of Jacksonville. I have already pledged to provide a full reporting of all the monies that go to nonprofits around our city. There's absolutely no reason to put that divisive language in our city budget. But that will be another thing up for debate. So another thing you can sign up to talk about at the city council meeting. And then the only other thing that you have as a tool to use in your bag of tricks is to not vote for these same people again if they continue to do what you don't want them to do. Again, Rory is different than anybody on the council. I'm just going to say that. I don't feel like I know him anymore. But I will say to you, I think most of them are people who are beyond their political ambitions, which occasionally take them in a direction. I do think they love the city, and I do think they will largely be responsive if you continue to tell them what you want. We have worked extraordinarily well together over this first couple of years. We've gotten 95% of our priorities across the finish line. And that requires working together, and we've done that. So don't let all of this is always the case around budget time, where there's a lot of noise. Next year will be even worse because we'll be in an election year. But I would simply say that the more you show up and the more you make your voices heard, the better opportunity we have. And then you got to take notes and you got to keep receipts. That's all I would say about that. So thank you, Carolyn. Appreciate you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Troy.
Troy?
Yeah.
Thanks,
My main
Troy.
question revolves around infrastructure, actually.
Yeah.
Namely public transportation. Does your office have any plans to help increase that? Because as of right now, my current address, it takes me about 2 to 3 miles just to get close to my near bus station. And then there's no even guarantee that bus route gets me to where I want to go.
Yep.
And I would be stuck spending hours just trying to get to my actual location. Do we have any plans in place to help increase that? Well,
This is where I've said for the last 2 meetings now that I really need to have somebody from JTA do we have somebody from JTA? No. No, you don't have any answer for that, Jim? Well, can we get your name and address so we can? I will say this has been a chronic problem Again, 840 square miles, big challenges, but we do need a better handle on some of these bus routes. I hear this all the time, and I've been hearing it. And it's one of those things over which I don't have a lot of control, but we continue to bring that feedback back to our Jacksonville Transportation Authority. They know. I believe they are trying to address those challenges, but I can't tell you specifically in terms of what he's talking about, what's being done. I know there are supposed to be a lot of express bus routes that are out there now. I don't know how well they're working, but they don't work very well. Okay. Well, I'm gonna make a concerted effort to try to see if I can get somebody from JTA to be at our last few of these, because it is a question I get over and over. And in the meantime, we'll reach out to them and try to get the best answer for that question. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. No, come on up to the mic if you don't mind. I just think nobody else is going to have an easy time hearing you. Thank you so much. Hi, Carrie.
I love the new sidewalk at Wonderwood over the bridge.
Oh,
I'm
good.
so excited because that sidewalk is a mess. And but I do think that we should get rid of the underbrush. And it's scary. I run by myself all the time, and I don't like if something ever happened.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's weird.
Can I ask a quick question to somebody that's going to know? Wonderwood, is that state or is that a state? So this is an issue that we run into a bunch because we talk a lot. Al Ferraro is here, who handles our city's blight initiatives. Another initiative, hugely important, that we added $1 million for this year that was also cut. So we have blight all over the city, but that includes what happens when you have those overgrowths. You get the opportunity for a lot of junk and trash and things like that. There are roads for which we are responsible, and there are roads for which DOT is responsible because they're state roads, and we're not allowed to touch those roads. We're not allowed to mow in those areas. We're not allowed to pick up trash in those areas, or we're not supposed to. So we're trying to work. I know Al has made a concerted effort to try to deal with DOT, to try to get them to focus on some of these areas that you're talking about in a more timely manner, because it's frustrating to be able to handle all the area around and even some of the, the other issues, but we can't touch that stuff. But I agree with you. It's a big problem. And we end up with a lot of potential hazards because of it.
It feels like a safety issue, really, because I by myself, I always want the opportunity to be able to run to the street if I ever needed to. But
she's saying that she runs by herself a lot, and it concerns her when she runs in that area and the brush is so high and you never know if somebody's there or some hazard is there. And I agree with that 100%. So we will Al, can you get her information and see if we could get her a better answer on that? And
yeah,
you want to address that real quick? Whatever.
So we are addressing that. We have Mayport, that we had some homeless camps that are on private property, that we have the owners cleaning that out now. Along Wonderwood, where you're talking about, that is part of the JTA. You've probably seen some dumpsters out there where we're pulling out other homeless camps that are along there. And I'm also working with DOT around the Queens Harbor area. That underbrush, I think, is where you're talking about there.
Yeah, today they were doing the sidewalk, like the grading for that, but I'm just talking about the brush that separates the sidewalk from Wonderwood.
So all of this is state property.
Okay.
So we are trying to get them to fix what we see it, because we see it as a problem.
Yeah.
As safety, we see it as a problem of how it looks in the city.
Yeah.
So we are working, we had a meeting today with FDOT that we're trying to do this. So it is an ongoing thing that we're trying to do.
Yeah. Actually meant it as a compliment. That's not even why I'm up here, but it's
But
good.
I'll
like
take
it.
your name and give you my number,
All right.
and find out if you see something that I don't, so we can get on top of that.
My question is that I had an opportunity to listen to David Bernier speak this past week, and he was great. But he mentioned that Duval County is a donor district, and I thought it was odd because we just had a tax increase specifically for public schools. What was that, like 2 years ago? And then he was saying, oh, but we're a donor district. I've never even heard of that. I was like, what is that? And I was like, but we just had a tax increase. And he's like, no, don't worry. We don't give away that dollar, or, that money. And I'm like, okay, well, it's all of my money. So I guess am missing it. And I read an article last week about, some like assistance money that was mismanaged, an assistance service with the city that was mismanaged to the tune of a couple $100,000. And I don't know, like, just where's the oversight? And I don't understand why, if we are having these issues, why would we be supporting other school districts when we're in such a tight financial.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I'm connecting on this. I don't know. Do you know what she's talking about? Any of y'all? I'm
He
sorry.
said I'm sure I can email him directly. I just didn't know. It just seemed relevant. And I know you talk about $1 for the millage, and I don't care. I mean, you're right. Maybe it is $1, but it's not just that. My energy costs have gone up. My utility, like, it's not the only. It's $1, but it's $1 in addition to all the other dollars.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I'm honestly, I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, Chris Bernier. Yeah, I call him Dave
Dr.
Bernier.
Bernier.
Yeah, sorry. I meant, thank you. Thank you for correcting me.
But what was the point that he was trying to make there?
Yeah, it's like a donor district. He did a presentation that I attended.
I will say that the reason I'm somewhat blank on this is because that's a completely separate administration to this one.
Okay.
So what we have heard repeatedly is that our dollars for our schools have been cut. So I don't know. I don't really know more about that. Melissa may be able to tell you more, but I don't know about that particular issue. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm short, like you.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Barbara Gilbert.
Barbara.
And I'm a social worker. And my concern is affordable housing, the homeless, and our disability community, all of whom I give my heart to every day. Okay, thank you for the budget. I believe that it's going to be voted down because I think this is a political. So my question is, for the people who are not numbers to me, they have names and family names. How do I give them hope? What is the backup plan if on the 23rd or whatever, City Council comes in, votes out the affordable housing benefits, the money that goes to homeless programs? Because I can tell everybody in this room, because I work with people moving from homelessness families into affordable housing and for Habijacks, without like a down payment assistance program, something that puts them in a shelter so they can work, so the kids can go to school. They build our communities. And I had a 99% success rate working with these families. They are now able to put back in the community. But this population is growing because the jobs are not out there. Everything that I know about, and it's a human issue. And I think my frustration is, how do I keep hope alive? I mean, I understand coming to meetings, writing the letters, making the phone calls. I do all that.
You keep hope alive because we're all here trying to do the work. That's how you keep hope alive. We keep working toward those initiatives, whether they cut the budget or they don't. Obviously, the purpose of me being here is to educate you about what we're trying to do. And so I would say continue to try to explain that from your perspective to our city council, but also we will keep working with those organizations, doing what we can and trying to, as we do with all this. Look, we are the hottest job market out there right now. I think we're the 4th hottest in the country. Is that right? That's good. We're leaving too many people behind in this economy. And I think it's really important for us to continue to say both things are true. And if we can bring in revenue by what we're doing with all those cranes in the air downtown, which is a way that we're bringing in revenue, we want to remain a low tax city. That's one of the things that makes us attractive. We want to be an affordable city. There's got to be a balance there to where what we're trying to do with these initiatives is to create a proof of concept so the private sector will say, aha, we see that this benefits us to invest in these things. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to be everything to everybody. We're trying to show a proof of concept to bring in partnership from the private sector. That's the goal. And I really do believe, if you look at the support that we're getting on some of these issues from the private sector, beginning to wake up on some of these issues, I do think we're making progress there. So look, success is never a straight line, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, I talk a lot about love over fear. I talk about that all the time, right? When I got elected, I said, I'm so happy that we've chosen the positive route, right? We've chosen the positive path over the path of mutually assured destruction. That doesn't last all the time, right? So if we have to continue to move ourselves back and move ahead, success is never a straight line. It's never a straight line. So I would simply say the hope that you give is look at all these people that are here trying to solve a problem and trying to work to make all those things happen. I wish I could tell you that everything was going to be nirvana tomorrow, but that's just not how it ever works. You know, but we do have a lot of very good people in this city, great people in this city. Even the ones that look at this as a completely opposite way that I do, I still think they're trying to get to a solution. So we just have to keep working together to make those things happen. And I, you know, you can't look at one budget cycle and say that we're going to give up on that. We never will. But we have to continue to work with the community, educate the community, and make sure that people understand how important these issues are.
Well, thanks for
Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. How are we doing on time? 7:23. Anybody else? Got another person who wants to talk? Come on up. What is your name, sir?
Dave Caffrey. Sure.
Thank you.
Recent move into Atlantic Beach, and one clarification: we're not a donor district in Duval. We don't pay out tax dollars. I mean, when we moved here, we kind of looked into some of this stuff, and we definitely don't pay out to other school districts. And I just wanted to compliment you and I guess the council in general on having run a good business of the city, right? We have really good municipal bond ratings, which allows us to borrow money at low rates and grow the economy. And I hope people will think about that when we vote to have a healthy economy. You can grow the economy and not raise taxes and have more money to do good things. But if you cut the infrastructure in the meantime, you're toast. So I just want to thank you for that hard work, and I hope people think about that when we talk about, you know, sort of penny wise, pound foolish stuff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Have I got anybody else? Well, folks, thank you so much for being here tonight. I can't even tell you how much. Every time I come out here, to have these meetings, they're always so well attended and people are so well informed. And you know, don't tell anybody, but this is my favorite thing to do. If I could do these nonstop all the time, I probably would do it. Even those of you who yell at me and disagree with me, I truly need to and want to hear from you. I want to represent everybody in this city to the best of my ability, and I want to work with those of you who agree with me and don't agree with me to try to come to solutions that we can all live with. And that's the purpose of these meetings. So please, you know, I think if I were to leave you with anything tonight, it is, especially given the events of the last several days, I really am begging you to do what you can to turn down the temperature on political rhetoric, to I don't care what I sound like. I know people look at me sometimes and think I sound like a Pollyanna. I don't care. I truly believe we got to love our neighbor, and I think that means seeing the person across from us that we disagree with and trying to come to some sort of a point of mutual respect and understanding. It's the only way forward is to love each other, because we got this city together. And I just believe that all of us want the same things. We want a safe neighborhood. We want a roof over our heads. We want a good job. We want our kids to have more than we had. We all want that. So we have got to somehow find a way to stop putting each other into categories and teams that make us hate each other. If I don't accomplish anything else while I'm in this office, I'm going to keep pounding on that because it's too important to the future of our children. We cannot leave a legacy of hate to our children. We got to keep working together, and I appreciate y'all being here tonight to try to do that. Thank you.